Take a slow breath in and gently let it go. There is something about the beginning of a new year that brings emotions to the surface, even if you try not to think about it. Even if you tell yourself it's just another day, the shift in the calendar has a way of stirring quiet reflections. You begin to look back, you begin to measure, you begin to compare, and almost without realizing it, a familiar thought forms. I should be further along by now. This thought doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, late at night, in the space between tasks, when you finally stop moving. It shows up when you see other people celebrating milestones, when you remember plans that didn't unfold, when you think about prayers you carried into last year that didn't resolve the way you hoped, and the mind begins to narrate, I lost time, I didn't do enough, I should have handled things differently. Others are ahead of me, I'm behind, undo. At the start of a new year, many people don't feel excited. They feel exposed because a new year feels like a checkpoint. A moment where life quietly asks, what do you have to show for the time that passed? And if your year included loss, delay, fatigue, survival, or quiet endurance, that question can feel heavy. Let's say this gently and clearly. Feeling behind does not mean you failed. It often means you were living through something that required more from you than others could see. The world measures progress by outcomes, by achievements, by timelines, by visible results. But God measures growth differently. He sees the unseen battles, the strength it took to keep going, the faith it required to stay when things were unclear, the courage it took to endure seasons you didn't choose. And none of that is wasted. At the start of a new year, there is a lot of noise about starting over. New goals, new habits, new plans, new versions of yourself. But very few voices say this. You don't need to erase last year to move forward. You don't need to disown what was hard. You don't need to pretend you're stronger than you are. You don't need to rush into becoming someone else. Because God is not asking you to catch up. He is inviting you to continue. Take another slow breath in and let it out gently. If you are entering this year with mixed emotions, with gratitude and disappointment, with hope and weariness, with faith and unanswered questions, you are not late, you are not behind, you are human, and God is still writing your story. In the next part, we're going to talk about something freeing. Why God is not rushed by time, and why your pace has never threatened his plans. Stay here. This is not a season of catching up. It's a season of grace. Let's talk about time, because so much of the feeling of being behind comes from how we understand time. We live by clocks and calendars, by deadlines and milestones, by ages, seasons, and expectations. Time feels measurable to us, trackable, limited, so when things don't happen, when we expect them to, we assume something has gone wrong. But God does not experience time the way we do. He is not rushed. He is not anxious about delays. He is not pressured by calendars turning. What feels late to you does not feel late to God. What feels slow to you does not feel stalled to him. We often assume that if something didn't happen on time, it must be a mistake. But many of the most important things in life cannot be rushed. Healing takes time. Wisdom takes time. Formation takes time. Trust takes time. And God is far more interested in who you are becoming than how fast you arrive. You may feel like last year set you back, like circumstances slowed you down, like detours interrupted your progress, like survival replaced momentum. But slowing down is not the same as falling behind. Sometimes slowing down is what keeps you from breaking. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently if you feel pressure to make this year count. If you feel urgency to prove something, if you feel anxious about where you should be by now, you can release that here. God is not asking you to sprint into the future. He is asking you to walk with Him. When God allows seasons to take longer, it is not because He forgot you. It is often because He is preparing you for something that requires depth, and depth cannot be rushed. In the next part, we're going to talk about something hopeful. What growth looks like when it's happening quietly, beneath the surface, without recognition. Stay here. You are not running out of time. Now let's talk about growth. Not the kind you can point to easily. Not the kind that shows up as milestones or announcements. But the kind that happens quietly. Because some of the most meaningful growth in your life may be the kind no one else ever sees. We often assume that if growth were happening, it would be obvious. There would be visible progress, clear movement, something measurable. But that's not how growth works in many seasons. Some growth happens in silence. Some growth happens while you're simply trying to get through the day. Some growth happens while you're resting, recovering, or relearning how to trust. And because it doesn't look impressive, we overlook it. Think about what last year required from you. Did it ask you to be patient when you wanted answers? Did it ask you to endure when you wanted change? Did it ask you to stay present when you wanted escape? If so, something important was forming in you. Growth is not always about addition. Sometimes it's about strengthening your discernment, strengthening your boundaries, strengthening your compassion, strengthening your resilience, strengthening your dependence on God. These things don't come from ease. They come from lived experience. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. If you look back and think, I didn't accomplish much last year, try looking again. Look for the ways you learned to carry less, the ways you said no when you needed to, the ways you survived things you once thought would undo you, the ways you became more honest about your limits. That is growth. God is not disappointed by seasons that look quiet. He does not dismiss the kind of progress that doesn't show up publicly. He sees the work happening beneath the surface, and He honors it. In the next part, we're going to gently confront one of the most common fears people carry into a new year. The fear that they miss their window, that it's too late, that opportunity has passed them by. Stay here. This truth brings relief. Let's talk about a fear many people don't say out loud, the fear of having missed their moment. It sounds like this: I had my chance. That season passed. Others moved ahead. Opportunities closed. I waited too long. And quietly, the thought settles in. Maybe it's too late now. This fear can feel especially strong at the beginning of a new year because time feels visible, years feel numbered, age feels louder, comparison feels sharper. And the story you tell yourself becomes, if it didn't happen by now, it probably never will. But here is a truth that gently interrupts that story: God's work in your life does not operate on expiration dates. There is no window that closes on God's purposes for you. No season where His grace runs out. No age where His plans stop applying. No delay that disqualifies you. What we often call missed opportunities are usually misunderstood seasons, seasons where God was forming you, instead of advancing you, preparing you, instead of positioning you, teaching you, instead of launching you. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. If you've been afraid that life moved on without you, if you've believed that others advanced while you stayed still, if you've wondered whether God passed you by, let this truth settle. God does not abandon stories halfway through. He does not start something only to lose interest. He does not measure your worth by how early you arrive. Some paths only make sense after patience has done its work. Some callings require maturity that only time can bring. Some doors open later because you are stronger than. And in the next part, we're going to talk about how to release last year without erasing it, how to move forward without pretending the hard parts didn't happen. Stay here. This is where grace deepens. Now let's talk about release, because moving into a new year does not mean pretending the last one didn't matter. It does not mean minimizing what was painful. It does not mean rushing past what still needs healing. And it does not mean rewriting your story to make it look cleaner than it was. Release is not erasure. Release is honesty, without self-punishment. Many people think they have to choose between holding on and moving forward. But God invites something gentler. He invites you to carry wisdom, not regret, to carry understanding, not shame, to carry truth, not bitterness. There may be things from last year that still ache, conversations that didn't happen, prayers that weren't answered the way you hoped, decisions you wish you had made differently, losses you didn't choose. Releasing those things doesn't mean saying they were small. It means saying they no longer get to define your future. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. You are allowed to honor what was hard. You are allowed to grieve what didn't come to be. You are allowed to acknowledge that some seasons required endurance, not celebration. God does not ask you to deny your experience. He meets you in it. When you release last year, well, you don't drag it behind you. You integrate it. You allow what you learned to inform how you move forward. You allow what you survived to deepen your compassion. You allow what you lost to soften your heart. Nothing you walked through was meaningless. Even the things you wouldn't choose again can still shape you with grace. And God is not finished with the story those seasons began. In the next part, we're going to talk about beginning again without pressure, how to step into a new year without turning faith into performance. Stay here. This is where peace starts to settle. Let's talk about beginning again. Not starting over, not reinventing yourself, not proving anything. Beginning again without pressure. At the start of a new year, there is often an unspoken expectation to come back stronger, more focused, more disciplined, more productive. But pressure does not produce peace, and faith was never meant to feel like performance. God does not require you to impress Him this year. He is not waiting for a better version of you before He walks with you. He is not measuring your devotion by how ambitious your plans are. He is simply present. Beginning again with God often looks quieter than we expect. It looks like honesty instead of ambition, consistency instead of intensity, faithfulness instead of urgency. It looks like showing up without demanding immediate change. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently if you feel tired at the thought of doing more this year. If the idea of resolutions feels heavy instead of hopeful, you are allowed to choose a gentler beginning, a beginning rooted in presence, not pressure. God is far more interested in walking with you than watching you perform. You don't have to rush your healing. You don't have to accelerate your growth. You don't have to force momentum. You are allowed to move forward at the pace of grace. In the next part, we're going to talk about walking forward gently, what it means to take the next step without carrying the weight of the entire year. Stay here. You don't have to hurry. Now let's talk about the next step, not the whole year, not the long-term plan, not the version of yourself you think you should become, just the next step. One of the reasons the new year feels overwhelming is because we try to carry all 12 months at once. We imagine everything that needs to change, everything we hope will be different, everything we're afraid won't improve. And that weight makes forward movement feel heavy. But God rarely asks for the whole picture. He asks for faithfulness in the present moment. Walking forward gently means you stop demanding certainty before you move. It means you allow God to meet you in small, ordinary steps, showing up today, doing what is in front of you, choosing honesty, choosing kindness, choosing trust again. These things may feel small, but small steps taken faithfully carry great weight in God's story. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. If you've been waiting to feel ready before moving forward, if you've been holding back until things feel clearer, you may not need more clarity. You may simply need permission to take the next step imperfectly. God does not require perfection to guide you. He walks with you as you learn. Walking gently does not mean walking passively. It means walking attentively, listening as you go, adjusting as needed, trusting that God can redirect you, even after you start moving. In the next part, we're going to talk about hope for the year ahead. Not a loud, demanding hope, but a steady hope that can hold you through whatever unfolds. Stay here. You are not late. You are walking forward. Now let's talk about hope for the year ahead. Not the kind of hope that depends on everything going right, but the kind of hope that remains, even when the path is still unfolding. This kind of hope does not rush you forward. It does not pressure you to predict outcomes. It does not require certainty. It steadies you. Hope grounded in God is not loud or demanding. It doesn't insist that this year must look a certain way. It doesn't promise that things will finally fall into place. It doesn't pretend that challenges won't come. Instead, it says, whatever this year holds, God will be with me in it. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently if you are carrying quiet fears about the months ahead. If you are unsure what this year will ask of you, if you feel hopeful and cautious at the same time, you don't need to resolve those feelings. Hope can hold complexity. Biblical hope is not optimism. It is trust. Trust that God's presence is not seasonal. Trust that His faithfulness does not expire with time. Trust that even if plans shift, even if expectations change, even if progress looks different than imagined, you are not abandoned. This kind of hope gives you room to breathe. It allows you to live the year, one moment at a time. It frees you from the burden of needing the future to reassure you. Hope doesn't ask you to see the whole story. It asks you to trust the author. In the next part, we're going to gather everything we've spoken about into one steady truth. You are exactly where grace can meet you. Right now. Stay here. You are not behind. Let's gather everything we've spoken about into one steady truth. You are exactly where grace can meet you. Not where you plan to be. Not where you hope to be by now. Not where you think others are. Right where you are. So much of the pain around being behind comes from believing that grace only meets people who arrive on time. But grace has never worked that way. Grace meets you in detours. Grace meets you in delays. Grace meets you in seasons you didn't choose and paths you didn't expect. You have not fallen outside of God's care because your story unfolded slowly. You have not disappointed Him because your progress looks different. You have not missed His presence because your journey took a turn. God has been with you. In every step you questioned, every moment you doubted, every season you endured quietly. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently if you feel the urge to judge where you are right now, if you feel pressure to explain your life to yourself or others, if you feel tempted to rush into the future just to escape the discomfort of the present, you can rest here. Grace does not hurry you. Being exactly where grace can meet you means you don't have to justify your pace. You don't have to apologize for the time it took to heal. You don't have to minimize what last year asked of you. You don't have to prove that you're doing enough. God already knows what you carried, and He honors it. In this place, faith becomes quieter, but stronger. Hope becomes steadier, but deeper. And trust becomes less about outcomes and more about presence. In this final part, we're going to seal this truth with prayer. A prayer for release, a prayer for peace, a prayer for the year ahead. Not shaped by pressure, but by grace. Stay here. This is holy ground. Let's close with prayer. Not a prayer of ambition, but a prayer of trust. Heavenly Father, you see every heart listening right now. You see the hopes they carried into last year. You see the disappointments they didn't plan for. You see the strength it took to keep going through uncertainty. And you see them now, standing at the beginning of something new. Heavenly Father, we release the belief that we are behind. We release the pressure to catch up. We release the shame that comes from comparison, and we receive your grace. For those who feel weary, bring rest. For those who feel uncertain, bring peace. For those who feel hopeful but cautious, bring reassurance. For those who feel disappointed, bring healing. Teach us to walk this year without rushing ahead of you. Teach us to trust that you are still writing our story. Teach us to believe that nothing has been wasted. Not the waiting, not the detours, not the quiet seasons. Help us carry wisdom forward instead of regret. Help us carry peace instead of pressure. Help us carry faith that does not depend on outcomes. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. May this year be marked, not by striving, but by trust, not by comparison, but by contentment, not by fear of being behind, but by confidence in your presence. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. God is still writing your story, and He is not finished. Rest now in that truth.